Welcome to Sledgehammer Podcast number 1. Name is temporary. We may not keep it. I'm not quite sure. But
Wait. When did we agree to Sledgehammer?
it was agreed when you were not here.
Oh,
No,
okay.
It was much better than Dingle.
it was. That
Okay.
is true. It is much better than that. But if you each individually like to introduce yourself in whatever pronoun or name you'd like to be called. You go
All right,
first,
I'll go
Spike.
first.
Yeah.
For the most part,
You're like cutting out.
am I?
Yeah.
Oh my! Hold on.
Good start.
Can you hear me now? All right, I'm watching the green thing. All right. So my name is Chris, or Spike, mostly be called Spike. That's about it. That's the intro.
Alright, noted. Nice intro. Alright, let's move on to you. And you know who you are.
Alright, my name is Drager. You can call me Dre. My pronoun's Pikachu. That's my pronoun.
Also,
Pikachu.
my pronoun is Velociraptor Wizard.
That's too long. Can I call you Veli?
You know that would actually really work.
Alright, Veli.
Valley. What a name that is. Alright, and obviously, I'm the host of this podcast, Bloody Roses. You may know me from the non-popular streams I make, but I'm an obviously cut rate streamer on Twitch, DLive, and Mixer. And YouTube got excommunicated because it was so bad. But other than that, I've obviously known. But now that we got the greetings out of the way, did you want to say something, Derek?
You literally punch yourself with words. I hope you know that.
I don't think it's that YouTube is bad. It's just that you're not Will Smith and it doesn't care about you.
You might be right, honestly. I think I need to have my own YouTube rep. That's what I need. If anyone from YouTube would like to be my own representative, I'd love you.
No, if anyone in YouTube would like to view, he would love to have that. We need at least a view.
Yeah. We're like a cut rate podcast. Like we're like losing views. We need people to watch. Please come on.
No, we need views in the first place to lose views.
Okay. Anyway, let's get right to the first topic, which probably some of you have already known about, which is the whole whistleblower thing going on now. With the article here. So this is from CNN. This is actually the timeline of it because this whole whistleblower situation it exists. It's got a lot of things kind of attached to it. But first thing, 510 on September 20th, 2019, former UN ambassador says White House release of Ukraine transcript shows officials accustomed to Trump's actions. Let's see, just going through here. Former U.S. ambassador to the United States, Samantha Power, knocked White House officials for thinking that release of rough transcripts of July 25th's phone call between President Donald Trump and Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky, I hope that's how it's pronounced, would work to their benefit. The fact that people put the transcripts out and thought it would be somehow helpful for the president, I think just speaks to how accustomed the people around President Trump have become to this pattern of behavior. That's more the opinion side of it. But the top aide to the Ukraine president expresses deep respect for Cold War. Peter O'Rourke argues best thing United Countries, Trump's resignation. That's more opinion pieces. But here, I'll let you sum it up because this is actually a lot of stuff to go through. So, Derek, if you wouldn't mind summing it up a little bit, because I know.
Summing it up. Well, here's the thing. If you want me to sum it up in my own way, I can.
That's fine, because I know what's going on. I just can't really piece together of like exactly what to say, because there's a lot going on.
So I'll try to make this unbiased as possible. What's happening is basically this whistleblower situation. It's where everyone believes that this is something that can get Trump impeached, because what they believe it is, it's a quid pro quo, meaning he's doing something to get more power by trading something. That's why they wanted him to release the transcript of the call, so they can expose Trump for trying to do that necessarily. And yeah, now here we are. there's actually been a lot of research on this, and yeah, that's actually it's not real. This whistleblower situation, it's not real.
Really?
Trump, yeah, Trump is not wrong at all. He did nothing wrong. Um,
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Like
like
Get out
what?
again.
another to investigate another, like a fellow American. That's just weird to me. Like I don't know why you're like, hey, look at Joe Biden. As like, is he your no? Like, I'm sure he's a target for the election. I guess he is a threat there, but I don't see the need.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no. So the whole whistleblower situation thing is I did I did do a decent amount of research on it. So let me just go refer through my notes, but you can go ahead and just say whatever. Cause yeah, I'm gonna just go through my.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I was saying, like I don't know what Trump was trying to gain, and I don't know what. Like I feel like if Trump is asking another government, I guess, or foreign government body to be looking into his own peoples, that just sounds weird and it sounds strange. But in the most, like in the other end of that is just what's wrong about that? Like what deserves to be impeachment about that? I think it's definitely the shadiness. Like they were.
Oh,
Go ahead.
they're trying to get him impeached because of the quid pro quo thing. That's what they're trying to impeach him on. But so this is why it's not realistic. It's totally fake. It's been debunked by a couple news sources. I got mine mostly from Fox News. But here it is. Adam Schiff, Chairman Schiff, right? The Ukraine phone call is actually the one that was released by him is actually made up. It's not real. Meaning, the one that when they actually released it, there was nothing bad that Trump said that would have got him impeached or even questioned his integrity in his position. And then later on, Chairman Schiff referred the transcript that he made as a parody, and he uh, paraphrase quote that he said that everyone understood that the transcript was something that he was mocking. It wasn't realistic, and he said it was obvious to everyone that the transcript he came up was a parody.
Wow, this is kind of a bad show. But wait, hold up, Spike. Chris, it
Go
was
ahead.
right. Yeah, Chris.
Yeah.
So, I remember like you said that having a president have a foreign country investigate its own staff as being weird. I mean, I can see how that's shady, but like technically it's kind of like you would want a third party to review your own staff. Like you wouldn't want someone from the Trump administration to review the Trump administration because they have like a say into it.
But here's the
Sure.
thing. Oh,
Go ahead.
You can go ahead. You go first.
Okay,
Is that
so I mean, like, what it's just levels of shady with Trump, whereas like he's asking an elected official. I assume it's elected of Ukraine. Most places have elections now.
Yeah.
Um, he's an elected official to investigate into Joe Biden. That's just so open ended. It doesn't make really any sense. Just on an aspect for just looking this from outside looking in, as everything is. The other side of the shadiness really comes from the fact that they were transcribing it and made it like a top secret information to have it encrypted. Which, of course, that could just be standard procedure, and we don't know that. But they literally like it's just weird levels of shady that I don't know. That's just it's so weird that you're like, look into this guy. Unless he's doing something in Ukraine, there's no need for him to be researched or like to be looked at.
who Biden?
You're right.
No. So I think no. What it was is that Biden's son. I think he did something, and so the reason we're using Ukraine's prosecutor is because that's the number one prosecutor in the world, type of thing. Like he's top end prosecutor. It's not. There's nothing that really has to do with Ukraine, but just the prosecutor himself. Um, and so like. Even they have him recorded that Biden leveraged $1 billion of taxpayer money to get the Ukraine prosecutor to get fired.
I didn't know
Because
that.
and he was trying to say like that Ukraine prosecutor was a corrupt prosecutor. Yeah, so it was because of Biden's son. He did something, and they're trying to like dig up dirt on that, if anything.
That makes more sense. But
Yeah, but the media is very, very, very biased. So
and and I gotta say that's like probably one of the worst things that's like happened about this is like the media rode this as quick as it could. Like there
Right.
was no waiting period. As soon as the whole whistleblower situation was found out, they immediately gunned it.
yeah, and here's some more things like so the person that was trying to say that Trump did something bad, which is Adam Schiff, the chairman, um, they have no evidence of Trump colluding with any foreign country to like win elections and stuff like that. But they actually have evidence of Schiff trying to dig up dirt. There's direct evidence of Schiff having there's a tape of him trying to get dirt on Donald Trump. Uh, yeah, and everyone tries to say that Trump is with Russia and the reason Trump won the election was because of Russia and stuff like that.
that
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that is one
I
thing
don't
I never
know.
understood, right? Was like this whole idea behind like the Trump administration colluding with Russia. I think there was only one piece of evidence that I think you could find to be like, okay, it's a little shady, but like there was nothing that fully said that, you know, Trump is officially colluding with Russia in order to help his campaign.
I highly doubt that he's with Russia. It's there's gonna be so much like evidence for because it's not something small to it. You can't win the election off of something small. It has to be a lot of like stuff going in the background, and it can't be that. It's got to be hard to cover all of it up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
I
him to collude with Russia to win the election, it has to be really, really hard to cover. They must be super, super good. They must have murdered a lot of people to do that, or because I highly doubt that um, they can cover it all up. You know, so I highly doubt that he did collude with Russia. That's my point of view.
What were we gonna
Yeah.
say, Chris?
Um. I mean, I don't know. This is just one of those stories about Trump doing something kind of shady. It's assumed it's bad, and then people kind of just run for the hills with it. I mean,
Yeah,
Like out of it is Nancy Pelosi saying that he should be impeached now because it's a level of treason, I guess. Um, I can understand that if it was like, hey, in the House of Representatives, like it's majority is red, like it's all mostly Republican, so they're not going to vote against it.
I think
Yeah.
I mean, or vote for it.
yeah, I mean the bigger picture here is how much hate Trump receives from the media and all these people.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of like he gets it. Like I mean, he gets it, but he also kind of gives it, and he like if he didn't have his Twitter account, I feel like most things wouldn't have been any problems whatsoever. But for
I
whatever reason, he just wakes up out of bed, grabs his phone, he goes, "You know what? That goofy girl, Elizabeth Warren, shouldn't become president." And it's like, what?
okay, yeah, he does say unnecessary stuff, um, but I think that's just him not being very correct and like just
It's like
politically correct.
he doesn't have a frontal lobe when he just grabs his phone.
Yeah, but it's not like
And
he's
then
not
he's
like
at a
he's
rally and he's like, you're right. Like some guy just comes up, spews some racist shit, and he's just like, well, you're not wrong. And it's like, what? No, you're not supposed to like agree he's like, I'm not agreeing nor disagreeing. And it's like, no, you should just not be agreeing at all and definitely condemn that person. But for the
I
reason
think
they don't care.
it's I I think, but if we're looking at Trump himself though,
Right.
he has not done anything that um is wrong that would actually cause a social unrest. Like I'm talking about like any policies he has written in to um cause unfairness or unequalness to anybody. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. I feel like a lot of his um any hate that he gains is just kind of just derived from the fact that he said things from before. and people
Exactly.
want to
Yeah.
just like. There's already like, I don't hate Trevor Noah, or if that's his name.
Yeah,
I
that's
just
Trevor Noah.
can't stand him when he's bashing Trump, not because he's bashing Trump, but because that's like 90% of his show now.
Oh
It's
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
it's like
it's
it's
awful.
honestly like it's it's like it's just weird because it's 40% of just, hey, this is like complete anti-Trump shit, and then
Mhm.
anything else that happens within the show, it's compared to Trump.
Yeah.
Like Elizabeth Warren will do something crazy, dumb, stupid. Joe Biden will do something crazy, dumb, and stupid, and he just goes, "Well, at least Trump didn't do it." Like, like he just adds Trump in there. He has to shoehorn Trump into everything, and it's just really ridiculous. And I think there is this stigma of, hey, Trump's the worst, right? And then it's just blank. It's kind of just like a period of a sentence.
I think
Yeah.
also, yeah, I think everyone overemphasizes and like really exaggerates um on Trump. Like if he does something that is any way that seems wrong or that seems like a certain way or they want to twist it to so it portrays that way, it's so they can get rid of him and so they could just keep building this hate on him. But they
Yeah.
can't. They can't dig up dirt on something that is non-existent.
Yeah,
Like
and then
Yeah.
like it's the same people who go, "Oh, you can't just go reach into someone's past and say that's who they are now," and then they go back and
hypocrites.
go, "Hey, Trump said this way back in the day. Isn't that crazy?" And it's
I know.
whatever. I mean, the biggest one that killed me was the one that, or like, oh, he said in People magazine, if he ever ran for president, he'd go for the Republican Party because they're the dumbest people around. And that was like proven fake right off the gate, but no one wanted to listen to it.
Mm-mm.
Like if you just like you could just you have to Google things, and people literally do not want to do that.
Yeah, I think also like people say it all the time. He's a bigot. He's racist. He's sexist. He's a
Right.
homophobe. That's all false. There's they can't prove it. There's no evidence to really prove that. Like he condemned the KKK and white supremacist people. He condemned them. He literally said it
Right.
in public. Like he condemned those people. There's no way you can dig up dirt on him because like he has not passed any policies that go against gay people, that go against people of color, or women. Everything
Yeah.
he's done for the country so far is good. That's why we're still here. That's why we're still
Uh,
okay, you know?
I mean, yeah. I mean, for the most part, I think if Trump took like a month ban from Twitter, he wouldn't be having as much problems as he does at all. Like I feel
Probably.
like he just puts himself in these positions to be like ostracized and hated.
Yeah.
Because
It's
like
just
he literally
funny.
he tweeted something yesterday and everyone was just mocking him for it. Where he was like, "No president has received so much hate," and it's like everyone just started mocking him for it. It was something ridiculous like that. Where it's like he's just kind of sitting there being like, "Wah," like, all right, chill. Like we don't, no one really cares.
Yeah,
He
I
You
should
know
I
what?
feel
remember what
self
you're
enough
talking
people.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm done with
Yeah.
this topic. I'm done with the
I
whistleblower.
I still want to talk just a little bit.
All right.
Just like I don't necessarily like full support Trump. I just hate people who ruin someone else's images without evidence or without backing up their claims and stuff like that. And so like
Right.
there's like the reason I don't hate Trump is because he doesn't do anything wrong. There's nothing he's done that is necessarily wrong in my eyes. And they're like, oh, he's racist because he wants to build the wall. No, the wall isn't just because he's racist. It's
I
because of just more security for our country. But people don't seem to understand that. They just want to twist it their own ways and make it seem worse than what the situation is actually is.
I think
Right.
honestly the whole thing with the wall was basically like when he was running on the Republican side, like that was his big go-to thing because he was trying to pull people a little bit more on the farther right. But I don't think he was really ever going to truly do it in the way that he said.
Yeah, I think this topic can have its own podcast,
Yeah, it
and I
really
think
can.
it really could.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just try to wrap it up real quick so we can move on because it's a serious issue. Like Trump is just could be his own podcast.
You really
So
can.
yeah, my finishing words is that a lot of people are hypocrites, and they just can't, they just make up stuff so people can look bad.
Yeah.
That's my finishing words for that topic.
Yeah, I think Chris, you got a lot of points in. If I were to say anything on Trump, basically, I don't agree with quite a few of the things that he's said, or even maybe some of the things that he's done. But I do overall think he's had a pretty successful year, and he's doing pretty good for the country. But that wraps it up.
All right.
Moving on, we're going on and talking about the Hong Kong protests. Now, I'm pretty sure quite a few of you have probably at least seen news about this. Oh man, this is insane. So this actually started off about an extradition bill between China, mainland China, and Hong Kong. So
Right.
the people originally did not like the bill, and they basically wanted to just get rid of it. They did not want to deal with it at all. They didn't want any of the representatives even talking about it. And it led to this protest once Hong Kong decided no, we're actually going to we're actually going to keep going through with it, and started this huge protest. Now the difference is after the bill actually has been not just tabled, it's out the door. Like they're not even talking about, it's not even being considered now. But it's now moved to a more pro-democracy protest because of all the police brutality that's happened. A lot of people from Hong Kong feel like it should not have taken going this far for them to even, because like it doesn't feel like a democracy anymore. I think for a lot of them, they felt like, hey, we had to basically overthrow our government just to have. We basically had to almost do like a Shays Rebellion type of protest just to even get our rights heard. So I think a lot of people, it's evolved from being just a thing about getting rid of this extradition bill to being more about a pro-democracy protest. But
I think what it is right now, though, is like, I think it's kind of some of their citizens realizing, hey, we're not in a democracy. Like, there is no voice for governmental change from within. It's honestly, it's just people who know each other and kind of just go on. And for my knowledge, just kind of a background, is I worked with a gentleman who he was an expatriate. He grew up in Connecticut, started backpacking Europe, and then got the opportunity to go to college and took it and went and got into what is known as basically he just started working for factories, going around making them basically able to make parts or whatever quicker, and kind of just basically numbers and stats like that. So
yeah,
but then he moved to China full time, and what he told me is that it's the entire system is basically they give you a number, and that number is your rank, and that basically you move up and down on that ladder. And the better people you know, and those people that trust you, the higher your number goes. And so it's like, if you want something, if you want to move somewhere, it's about who you know. It's if you want your kids to go to a certain school, it's who you know. And I think right now it's kind of like with these Chinese protesters and all of Hong Kong, they're kind of realizing that they're limited into what they do, and they don't have much of a say in most of their politics. Whereas like they had the equal suffrage thing that came out, and that's been a thing for them forever, and they kind of took pride in that. But now when when it's not equal suffrage, they they don't want to have that. They don't want to have this extradition thing that they can't control, and they know that their brothers and sisters are gonna suffer for it while
yeah,
they live in Hong Kong. Because Hong Kong is actually separate from China, if you kind of
yeah.
think of it this way. It's
I
kind of like this weird inner city type thing where it's like the closer you get to Hong Kong, the better it is. Like far east China is way worse than middle of China and then western China. Sorry, far west China, I just did that backwards, is much worse than central China and
isn't
then eastern.
isn't far west China mainly the more like farmers and a
Yep.
lot more of the agricultural section of China?
Yeah, that is very true. It's their agriculture side. It's also it's I don't know, it's so weird because it's like you don't have many factories out there, and it's just this large stretch of land that has less people but still is populated.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think right now. One of the craziest things that he told me was like they only have one time. Like right now in America, like it is what is it? It's 7:09 p.m. for me. It's probably what 6:09 p.m. for you because you're in Central,
Yeah.
and then so on and so forth as you go down. Right now, if you are in Hong Kong and it was 7:09 p.m., all the way over on the western side of China, it is 7:09 p.m. because they're not going to change the time based on where you live. It's just one flat time.
Uh,
So typically, like when they wake up, it's not 6 in the morning; it's like 9 in the morning. And
alright.
so, but that's considered early. They just kind of flip flop it like that. So I
Actually,
the
I'm gonna,
protests are incredible though.
I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop you for a second. And give Derek a time to speak.
Uh, I don't have much to say on this topic, but the topic what makes it very interesting is that they're using violence, and it's hard. It is really hard to get attention when you do it peacefully, because every major conflict in history has been resolved using violence,
No,
or
I'm
at least one side using violence. So that's
right.
how you gain a lot of attention for something like this.
Yeah.
To disagree for a little bit there is that like they were doing peaceful protests and they actually shut down Hong Kong's airport, which shut down a lot of their trade routes and
Hmm.
everything for that. What I think where it started getting violent was when they were like the police were like, okay, cool, like you done, and then they're like, no, and then they wanted to move them out, and
You
they
see
couldn't
how,
do it.
yeah, but that's you just know, if anything, you didn't disagree necessarily. You kind of proved my point even more, because when I was reading the article, there was nothing said about the peaceful protests.
Correct.
It only talked about the violent part, and that still kind of proves my point. Like they're not getting a lot of attention that they require or they need to, grow this into a bigger picture, and they want to showcase that.
Yeah.
So the violence is actually helping them in this case, which is odd to me, but it is one way for them to do it.
I
Yeah.
think like a part of this though is like the violence is honestly a retaliation from essentially I mean, if you look at it, right, it's not like they like started being violent just cuz they started being violent just because they felt like they weren't being heard at all. So it was just almost like a kind of just okay, well, if you're not going to hear our voice, then we have to make ourselves heard.
And that is something I don't disagree with. It's just something I'm noticed in this, because like in almost every major conflict in history, at least one side is using violence, and that's why it draws so much attention. So this could be good publicity for them, but in the end, how much people have to get hurt, to
Yeah.
so that for them to progress.
Yeah, and I mean that is the sucky part of it all, but it's always going to be that's always going to be a question. But then again, at the same time, I don't know. It's really hard to say like when is it enough type thing. Like when are their protests going to be enough? Because obviously at this time they don't feel like they're getting their rights represented, and they still don't feel like they're getting their rights respected. So do they
Right.
just continue on until something actually changes, or should they stop because they're hurting too many people, or like how does that kind of work?
There is probably something to say where they draw the line and go, all right, enough is enough, and they kind of come to a middle ground, or they actually kind of radically change their government. I mean, it wasn't until about 1997 that they went from like Hong Kong was given back to its people from United Kingdom because it was colonized from the entire time.
Yeah,
So like, and they kind of ran the government. It was just a weird thing to kind of think about, but
yeah,
that's why they mostly exploded as well, kind of into the scene and kind of controlling everything. I don't in long term if they can control and kind of regroup and kind of actually make themselves into a more stable government where they actually either have some sort of democratic system and allows themselves to regulate themselves without having fear of basically having this kind of entitlement thing. that would be great, and I honestly think that would probably be more beneficial for the rest of the world in that aspect, where you'd have more, we wouldn't be having these trade wars. You wouldn't have a lot of the problems that they have with Taiwan currently.
Yeah.
And most of their East Coast on the Pacific side, where they're kind of like encroaching themselves in a lot of areas where they just go, you know what, this section of sea is ours now, and then they go, oh, and this island that was in it is ours too. Which that's a whole nother side of thing. Another side is shady. That's really where they get shady, much like every country does. That's one of the things that they do. So.
All right, I think we got through this pretty
We
quick.
hit it.
Yeah, I'm ready to move on.
Yeah. All right. So next one, and I know Chris told me he read up on this one, so I'll actually let him summarize this. Florida City Commissioner confronts deputy at award ceremony over arrest. What is that about, Chris?
All right. So what ended up happening was back in the day. Well, actually, so they were having an award ceremony that was being broadcasted to their local television thing, basically TV2 if you're 90 years old like me, or basically their local broadcast thing. It was basically their local C-SPAN. And so what ended up happening, the ceremony was going on, and then one guy just grabs a mic and says, "Hey, I'd like to say something." And everyone, the woman that was clearly in charge, kind of just goes, "Okay." And then she was like, "Yep. So I want to thank everyone." The gentleman speaking was like, "Hey, I want to thank everyone for being here. And at this moment, I want to just point out that I forget what is his name. It's like Mr.
Galen?
Bradford.
Galen? Are you talking about Galen? Or are you talking
No, Joshua Gallardo. He was like,
Gallardo.
Mr. Deputy Gallardo, I want to tell you that you are you lied on a police report, and I believe you're a rogue police officer, and you're a bad police officer. You don't deserve to be here. After he was just awarded for getting Policeman of the Month or whatever, along with several coworkers. And so this is a city official. He was elected into the position. What he's referencing before is that Gallardo arrested him and said he was impeding an investigation, and that these accounts were fake against him. And so now I don't know. It's just weird because he's a public official that's just coming out with this now, talking about his police department. But everyone within the community or of the I apologize, within their own little town government is speaking against this city official because he
Wow.
is a counselor. Yeah, the woman that was in charge, what's her? It's Gomez. I forget her first name. She spoke out and said she spoke immediately afterwards and said, "All right, the best thing to take away is that you guys, we appreciate you being here and you guys are doing a great job," and then went to and apologized on national TV. So, any thoughts on this one, guys?
I think I'm gonna go ahead and speak first. I think I get what he's trying to say. I get Galen. I know he's trying to I know there's problems he's trying to expose. Like I think what he might be trying to expose is maybe, is it racism involved, or is it police integrity involved and stuff like this? Maybe that is what he's trying to show everybody at that conference. But the thing is, that was not the time to do it. That was it, I guess he was looking for a platform to do so, and in his mind, that was a great platform because he would get a lot of publicity. But all of it backfired, just because everyone there was to celebrate all the good doings, and now he comes in with this negative image of all these people, or just that one officer, and tries to ruin the moment almost. And so that's why he gets so much backlash from the community and stuff like that. I think if he did it on a different platform, maybe he'll get more support or something like that. But I don't know what he was trying to go for exactly, but that just all exploded back in his face.
Yeah, it really did not work out for him. I think honestly, he really should have just made a formal complaint. He did not have to turn this into a big publicity thing, which is something that's probably going to talk about in itself. Which is how there's so many people that they go into these platforms. say for this, trying to look for like a big public moment that is going to get national headlines. And really, at the end of the day, it only accomplishes, I guess, just that, just getting on a headline, but it doesn't actually solve the problem.
Right. I think like you have it's these people that like kind of see movies and they go, "Oh, it's going to be this huge thing. Everyone's going to gasp. We're all going to take back, and I'm going to recall this event." And you're going to be like, "No way." No, literally he says it to the officer. The officer goes, nods his head, and gives him a thumbs up and says, "Okay," and then continues on his day, and no one else says a word about it. And like the woman immediately apologized for the counselor saying that stuff to him. I don't like he expected a response then and there. None of that happened.
Yeah.
And especially if it's beef on like for 4 years ago, if you're going in like as a becoming a city official, you're probably going to be talking about that anyways. So I don't know why were they not aware that he was upset about this before, or did he just always hold this in?
I think he kind of just held it in. It was before he became commissioner, and I think it was on him. I think the false arrest was on the commissioner, and so like it was like what they called it was like an air personal grievance, and that's what they kind of called it.
Yeah.
I think he was trying to go for like more like the Colin Kaepernick kind of showcase.
Well,
where,
that's a little different.
I, I almost say it's kind of similar. Like the idea behind it is kind of similar. Where he's looking for a platform to do this, and he gets a lot of backlash. But I think he's not getting the support that he was. I'm guessing he would hope to get. Because some people actually support Colin Kaepernick doing the kneeling for the in the NFL. But
Yeah.
this is just all wrong because that was not the moment at all.
Right.
The moment was supposed to be joyous and whatnot.
Yeah. And I don't mean to say he's like he held it in too long and he didn't shoot his shot. This is totally just not the place to do it. This isn't your platform. This is like there's other like I think there's like 6 other individuals who are given certificates of like their job, basically doing their job as much as it is being a police officer for within their community, and he's just kind of taken this opportunity to kind of just go after this dude. Nah, not right at all. And I don't know. I think he probably is gonna get like removed from office at some point.
No, I think he is. I think he already is. Like, I think he
Or stepped down.
Yeah, he was forced to kind of like forced to step down a little bit. But yeah,
They probably were like, "Do it, or we'll do it for you."
maybe.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
Like, I do recommend watching the video though, because like, I want to say like, like the look on the woman's face, you can now on the webpage, where she's just kind of like holding her arm, holding her head with the other arm, and so she's just like, "Oh no!" And like the shake that she gives afterwards is so bad. Like she hands off the guy holds onto the mic, and she's like she's expecting it to happen because she's just out of her control, and I live for those cringe moments for these things.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think we covered most of that topic, but I mean, he didn't get much accomplished, like as much as we wanted to.
Yeah. But yeah, let's move on to the next one, which is the whole trauma that is the whole vape ban. This is this one's an annoying one for me, and probably for you too,
I love
Chris.
this one. This one is very, very interesting.
So, basically, to sum it up in a real quick TLDR, they found a study saying vapes could be bad for you because some of the products in certain vapes could actually, be pretty harmful for you. I don't think that any of them said that it was like going to be harmful or cigarettes are cigarette-like, but it would basically just prove that hey, vapes, yes, while typically, on average, the average vape is going to be better for you than just a cigarette. There's studies found that hey, there actually could be bad things, and now they're trying to look more into it. But it's also leading to some states actually straight up banning vapes, and there's even a talk about a federal ban on it, and it's kind of just turned into it's turned into a mess.
You mind if I speak first?
Yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
right ahead.
So the vape topic is very, very interesting. I love it so much so because it's so interesting in the way it is. Vape is totally is more advertised towards people mid 20s and younger.
Yeah.
So the ban on it is very interesting, and the concept to me is very interesting because we still have things like cigar, um, and cigarettes that are probably much worse than these vapes. And it's also the fact that the vape producers are putting more stuff into these vape than what is actually like recommended. Like when the first vape came out, it was more safe than it is now. They're adding more stuff into these vapes, causing a lot of you know health problems for people who use them. They're adding a lot more metal, and that obviously has negative effects on them.
Yeah.
Okay, so like, kind of just share something with you. Like I use a vape myself. It's not the ones that they describe here. It's not a one that I have to insert a cartridge and kind of heat up a liquid that turns into a vapor. What it is, it's actually just it's a base. I call it my weed pen. It's a one and all device that as soon as I start breathing into, it starts to heat up the wax inside and produces a good smooth THC. What the Forbes article that you shared, Brian, is basically kind of underlying the fact that like it's not the juice itself or the nicotine the product that it is. It's actually the package that it's being delivered in. So basically the vape pen itself, it's heating up so hot that it's actually sharing or and spreading the metals within itself outwards to the user. So basically, like everything that's inside of it is being heated up enough to. That's why they're finding what is it, aluminum, mercury, and all this other garbage.
Chromium, lead, and
Yeah.
nickel, a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like, that's all copper, iron, lead, magnesium, nickel, silicone, which
It's
isn't
stuff.
a metal, but it's on the edge. Tin and zinc. And so it's man, it's such a weird thing for me because the article's sort of misleading because it's not about actually vaping, it's about the device that is being used. It's like saying your car that you drive to work, the gas is bad, not the car. And really it's the car, the motor is completely garbage and it's ruining it, and you don't have a catalytic converter and it's poisoning the earth. Whereas they're kind of just being like, "Oh, cars are just terrible," and it's like, "What? No."
That's actually a really, really good point. That's actually like one of the best analogies ever for this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so for me, I honestly don't care what most people do with themselves. I mean, like smoking. Everyone knows smoking is terrible, and people have known that for years. But people continue to do it. My mother continues to do it. She's been smoking since she's 11, and now she is um
11. Wow, start off early.
well, she's 60. Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's over
Ooh.
60 right now. So,
That's
I
a
mean,
long time.
right. That's over 50 years of basically ingesting nicotine. But it's always been suggested, and tobacco advertising has always been kind of been said as like, oh, do this cool thing. If you smoke Marlboro cigarettes, you're manly enough to fly a helicopter and chop down a tree with your bare hands.
Oh, I know what you're
Like,
talking about, the Marlboro Man ads.
yeah, those were insanity. And then they kind of started going to like hitting you touched on it before, Dre, targeting kids because you get kids involved, and then all of a sudden, you know what? When they're in their teens and 20s, they're already hooked on it. They're going to continue to do it.
And they just
And
make more money.
Yeah.
correct. And I don't know if they never advertise for it because it's actually now deemed illegal to advertise nicotine products to children. And every single Juul ad I have ever seen, like
Is
I've never seen an ad
always.
for a Juul, like a commercial, but I've always seen a poster for it. And like there's this massive bar that's like a third of the page that literally says nicotine is bad for you. Don't do it.
Yeah, it's like the warning things on cigarette boxes when you like buy it from certain places. It's like that type of thing. I,
Right.
I think I think so vapes. Here's how I stand on it. Vapes are bad, yes, but I'm not the person that would vote for banning vapes because that goes against what I believe. I believe in government less control. Let us do what we want. let it be bad things. Like I don't do a lot of bad things. I don't smoke. I don't do that stuff. But I will support people who would want to smoke. Like
Right.
it's not that I smoke. I don't support you smoking. I want to support the right for you to smoke, because that is gonna impede on my right. What if I want to do that in the future? It's a right that I should definitely have, and something I would have control on, because you're right. It's not the vaping that's necessarily killing the people. It's the way they design the vape pen that's actually killing people, and what they put inside the vapes. Because back then, when the vapes, it was a little bit more safer. There was not like a lot of news on people getting killed and stuff like that, and people getting hurt by these stuff. Because like if you really think about it, cigarettes kill way more people than vapes do, and so do cigars and stuff like that. And so why aren't we banning those, if anything?
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good point.
I think, like, in all honesty, it should just be. There's things that, like, the government shouldn't be regulating the people on what they do, but they should be regulating the product on what it is. And
Yeah,
so, because you have the black market, the other side of it is that there's black market devices being sold and being used. I mean, we touch on China having a bunch of factories, but China is the king of the world of creating knockoffs and fakes and basically clones of everything. And what a lot of I guarantee you there's products that are coming from mainland China that are designed to be used as vapes, but are kind of that have been either adjusted or kind of messed with so they'd be made quicker and cheaper, and they're not the same quality as we would make in America and be deemed safe for like ourselves to use. So I'm sure there's a bit of that involved, but as well as the product itself of the juice or whatever. I don't know. I don't use vapes. I know there's juice involved. I don't know what they call it. I know most of the time it's like, oh, it's cotton candy Splendor. It's like
they have all
I
sorts
have
of different
I have this
flavors.
dropper that I put it in. Like my sister, she's been using
I
a
think it's a
vape
jewel,
pen.
right? A jewel.
Well, no, there's jewels that are basically that have their own cartridges that sell their own cartridges within it. So if you buy a jewel and you buy stuff for the jewel that's under the jewel label, that is way safer than buying a no-name brand vape pen, buying a no-name brand like brand X with brand X is way more dangerous than buying jewel and jewel. And I think that's kind of what is they're not telling people that. They're just saying, "Oh, a bunch of people are dying." And it's like, "Well, it's been 7 people across a year."
Yeah,
Like
that's
Is it
another
seven
thing
people? I
too.
think I think it's less than 7 people, right?
That's probably the biggest thing to point out too. Is like it's being made to like a big crisis by certain states, but really, it's not many people are really suffering from this. I
Right.
do agree with the fact that like the way that a lot of cigarettes or cigars or even vapes are definitely being marketed towards the wrong type of people. I should know where I used to go to school. Like pretty much every kid vaped. It was pretty bad.
The
Like
bathroom was nothing
Well,
but
is that
smoke
is
yeah,
that
clouds.
basically.
well, I mean, are you getting it like are you seeing like cuz I've been out of high school for a long time now, but are you seeing an advert for Juul, or are you seeing other kids use Juuls who then go, "Hey, you know what? You know what'd be cool? A Juul." And then
Well,
they're
it
just kind of giving it to their
Exactly. That's
friends.
that's that's how they
there
do it.
yeah there is a
It's not
difference,
like
but what I'm
they don't
saying
need to.
is
They
but
don't
what
need
I'm
to
saying
advertise.
is but what I'm trying to get out is that there is there is Jewel is marketing itself ultimately as like a lifestyle brand. That's admittedly what a lot of its marketing is. That it's something that you always have around. It's basically a part of your lifestyle. And I think what a
Right.
lot of people want more is that they want less of that and a little bit more of like being honest with what Juul is. Like it's a vape. You know, they should market it better to where it's almost like Blue. Like Blue is very much always been a company that's just like, hey, you want to
It's been
help get
oh man. Yeah, that's been around for years and years.
yeah. But and the other issue is too is like you said they're overheating the metals and it's causing those things to get into people's bloodstreams and ultimately can lead to serious issues. So I feel like at that point, well, that's one of those things where the U.S. government can say and just can come in and literally just say like, hey, they have to actually meet certain criteria. They're like you can't. Yeah.
I agree. I totally agree. Like, I think what the government should do, is not necessarily ban it, because that's just a horrendous idea to
No,
me.
banning it I think is a horrible
Banning it
idea.
is just a stupid idea to
Yeah.
me. Not that I vape or anything, but what they should do is maybe regulate the devices being used, just so it's a little bit safer for people. But I think banning it overall is just a really, really bad idea,
I
because
think
doesn't
I think it's sort
he's not
of
gonna get a lot of
like,
support, you know?
well, it's not even about getting support. I think honestly, it's like a liberty thing. It's like, me personally, I've always believed it's like, if you're not harming other people, then I don't see why you can't exactly do it yourself.
Right.
As
Like,
long
I'm
as,
sure the secondhand Juul smoke is
Uh,
far
l-
better than the secondhand Marlboro cigarette
I
smoke that
agree.
my mom would
yeah,
fucking just breathe in the car because she couldn't roll down the windows because it was -20 outside because we lived in god fucking elsewhere, Maine. And oh my god,
Yeah,
so
I
we just
think,
breathed it in.
as you know, like, kids, they if they get their hands on something, like, let it be anything. Let's say back in the days it was cigarettes. Kids would still get their hands on it, no matter what. Anyways, like, cause it's just how our society works nowadays. I think banning it is actually, yeah, I agree. It's a bad idea, because this is a better substitute to, cigars and cigarettes, which are way, way worse and kill people even faster. And I think the only problem with uh vapes that I have, truly, is that it's just the addiction part. I think,
Right.
I know
Well, I mean,
there are a lot of.
addiction lies in like a couple different things. For some people, it is the nicotine. They want to have the nicotine, and they need a device to kind of give them that nicotine. And Juul they honestly offer a way for you to get the nicotine in your system and kind of have it discreetly throughout the day. Whereas other people, much like my sister, she only vapes because she likes to be able to like have something in her mouth and just to be able to puff smoke and kind of have that. That's what she loves. And because honestly, vaping has actually got her away from nicotine altogether. She doesn't, when she vapes, she's not vaping anything with nicotine inside of it. She's just vaping flavored smoke because it tastes cool and that's what she needs.
Hmm.
That's this is why I enjoy the idea of vapes. Like, I'm not a person that uses it, because I'm very
Right.
against using that type of stuff. It's just my type of person. But I'm not gonna go up
Oh,
to people and be like, and judge them and be like, "Why are you vaping, dude?
right.
That's garbage." Like,
I'm not a
and judge
smoker.
people.
I'm not. I never got into cigarettes, and I never got into weed. There was like a nice like 3 month time where I was smoking weed with my friends, but then I kind of just dropped it because I didn't give a shit about it. I never wanted to pay for it. I never wanted to have to grind up my weed and then pack it a bowl. I didn't want to go through all the hassle. For me, I have this pen that I smoke every now and then, and it's mostly I smoke before I go eat because then I enjoy the food way more, and then I pass the fuck out and I fall right to sleep. That's honestly all it's for me. It's not about being high and getting lit with friends. It's more or less just kind of this substance that I use, and I don't need to use it all the time, and I don't crave it ever. I mean, I recently got sick and I couldn't use it at all. Like it was terrible.
Yeah, I think it's just hard because a lot of people can't control themselves anyways, and that might
Yeah.
be the leverage that some people are using to ban these
Yeah.
these
I also
vapes.
it's I feel like it's also this kind of like this baby boomer thing where it's like Juul cigarettes, what are those? And like kind of just realizing a whole world exists without them and they can't have it. And so like honestly, Brian, I want you to do this real quick. Go to Juul.com and just
Fancy.
like go through all the flags and warnings before you can even go to the main page.
Let's search up Joel real quick, and I think that's probably gonna be how we end it,
You
just
must be at least
because.
21 years
Yeah.
old to purchase products on Joel.com.
You
Yes.
ready? And then it's like, yep, all right. So you have to say where you're from. You have to say you are 21. And
Hmm.
so you have to, so
Warning:
you
this
just
product.
lied, and then there's a message bottom right hand corner, and it's like, "Yo, we don't have weed in our shit. Like, get out of here."
Oh yeah, like there's like no THC, no cannabis, no vitamin E compounds. Yeah, I mean they're trying to make
So
this as safe as possible, which I do
right,
enjoy for those people who are trying to change their lifestyle
and literally,
from.
it is a flash drive. You literally charge it with a fucking USB thing that's inside of it. The whole thing, for me, it's a joke. The entire like idea behind it is kind of hilarious for me, but I get it. I understand why people are upset about it, and I honestly couldn't care. So again, you just hit another tab and you be like, yeah, I understand. I'm over the age. I'm not. It's way worse. Like I can go to Pornhub right now and not have that many fucking flags pop up.
I was gonna say we can do that right now, but
Oh well, I mean you're streaming, so
easy ban.
yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, unless you go to Ninja. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I like doing scrolling down and looking at all the faces, like our community.
I also do think that Jewel recently did a lot of this, like literally recently. I don't think
Yeah,
this
they
is...
must have. They've had to be like, well, are we in trouble? No, not yet. And they're like, well, make sure. Okay.
Yeah. And so I think we kind of all agree that vapes necessarily isn't bad. And I just think the ban of it is not a good idea. I think it's gonna be a.
People are just uninformed.
I think
that's
yeah. It's if anything, I think if they ban um vape pens and jewels and stuff like that, these kids might go to cigarettes. They just might.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean, yeah, if they want the nicotine, but I'm sure I'm not a fucking cigarette smoker, but I can almost guarantee you that if someone goes from a Juul vape pen to a fucking cigarette, they're gonna die. They're, like, there's
It's gonna be a lot harder for
more
them. They're gonna get
involved.
hit, but like a truck, dude.
Yeah.
All right.
They're like, whoa, how do I turn this thing off? As they're not even halfway done with the cigarette.
And then they get
Actually-
like forest. They're like doing it in the forest or something and start forest fires and shit, man. Holy crap!
All right, we've actually been on this topic for close to like 15 minutes. I think it's time we move on.
Let's move on.
Yeah, let's. All right. So this is more of
video
actually, yeah, this is actually gaming industry news, and maybe it's not the biggest story that's going on right now, but it is by far one of the most I would say one of the most important and probably one of the most interesting ones going on right now. And that is...
sure will have some influence going forward.
For the Sherlock Holmes, I got nothing to say. Like I have like no idea what's going on with that. I
well, I'm gonna go
I might
through
sit on this one. I have no clue what is going on.
I wish I could open up Paint because I'll just definitely draw you a picture of that. Ooh, I can do it on my phone, then I'll just post it in chat.
All right, just to go through it real quick. So, the developers of the Sherlock Holmes games, basically their publisher, Home Interactive, they own the rights to, while they were publishing games from Frogware, they own the rights to the IP of those games. So the Sherlock Holmes IP, they owned it. And the thing is, though, is that Focus Home Interactive actually has a policy in place that basically said that if they removed all the games from the Focus Home catalog, so all the games they published on their like Xbox Store or PlayStation Store or Steam or whatever, if they removed it, they actually had a policy in place that they would not transfer any of the content IDs or title IDs, which are necessary in order to actually list your games again as a developer or publisher. So now what happens is that their contract's done. Like, they no longer have a contract with each other, but now Focus Home actually owns the IP that these developers have made, and that was not originally part of the agreement. The agreement was made prior to this policy being in place, so this actually came as a blindside to Frogware Studio, and they now, like, they don't own their IP, they're no longer getting money from it, and all their hard work is basically gone. And they can't use the IP because it's owned by Focus Home. Right. So it's really important, because essentially this is kind of like a way for any publisher to completely like destroy a developer. Like, taking someone's IP like that could very much destroy a developer's studio.
Are they taking the IP, or just they're taking the IP of, like, but it's not like of one game, it's of the several games that they've produced with each other.
Yes.
I mean, and it's also, what's weird is if you go to Steam right now, it's still up, and it's because they didn't publish the, what is it, Focus Home, FHI. They published it for Xbox and PlayStation. They literally published it for consoles and nowhere else. So that's where they're losing their money from.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I don't know, it's so weird to see a developer and a publisher to kind of disagree on itself. What else? My only thing is that what else does Focus Home Interactive have going on right now?
Oh,
Like
Focus
that's
Home Interactive. I think they should be responsible for the Surge, if you've ever heard of that. And they have quite a few titles under their belt. They're not like a huge publisher. They're kind of niche, but they do have a
right.
lot of games under their belt. They have Plague Tale: Innocence. That was a pretty popular game for them. Battlefield Gothic Armada, Blood Bowl, Bound by Flame, Call of Cthulhu. I'm just going through some noteworthy titles.
Yeah.
Divinity, Divinity 2 and Divinity Original Sin. They are not responsible for making of the next one, though. They have farming simulator games, Game of Thrones, Greedfall, Insurgency Sandstorm, which you and me know that one.
Yeah.
And of course the Sherlock Holmes games, the retail version of Shovel Knight. And yes, in this case, they weren't responsible for every platform of it being published on, but they were responsible for some. And when you're talking about a niche game like Sherlock Holmes, that really matters. Even one platform being pulled from it is quite a bit of revenue being lost, because console still does make up quite a bit of revenue. Styx, the Surge, and the Surge 2 to Technomancer, the retail version of Walking Dead, and Trackmania, Vampire, which that was another good game. And that's pretty much it. They have The Wolf Among Us for...
Oh, that was a big indie hit too.
Yeah. So they're actually not. It's not like they're really small, but they're not like
No.
Activision levels of giant or Square Enix.
Well, for sure, but they're definitely big for it. There's, I mean, honestly, like, there was a lawyer that I don't know who he was, but he kind of spoke up and said, "Hey, this is very, fixable by a government. I mean, by going into a lawsuit, because this is something that they changed without anyone's kind of permission, and they kind of did it as a blindside to frogwares, and it's unprecedented. Like, no one has ever done this at all within video games. You every now and then, I mean, you did have the Destiny 2 thing, but that was Division and Destiny stepped away from each other, and it might have been hard fought for Destiny to do that, but I mean,
It's nothing
eventually
compared to
it worked.
this.
Yeah, like, this is like sleight of hand, like you're not allowed at the dinner table type thing.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes this such a big piece of news. Is honestly, I think it kind of shows like how how unfair some of these publishers become. Like, I mean, you've probably heard like some of the like hell stories from like EA, where basically they basically overwork development studios and force them to do certain things here, and here, all basically all because they can make a hugely marketable product, and then they basically just acquire them. It's literally how EA got the nickname from Jim Sterling, Unicronic Arts, because it literally is Unicron.
Right.
But
I mean, you've always had I mean, it's not like it's not. I don't know. Video games is kind of fun. It's not unlike developers to be shady as well, but they're not usually shady within like two other companies. They're just shady within themselves, where they'll like they'll produce this massive game and then they'll lay off half their staff.
yeah, that's
afterwards.
insane. And that's probably another good topic is, honestly, is the game industry, like, does it need regulation right now? Because I think most people understand that the gaming industry as a whole has enjoyed a pretty nice grace period. It has not received any regulation outside of maybe the ESRB, but that was technically just self-regulation by the industry itself.
Right. I don't know. I mean, this is so weird. For me, it's weird because you just have the only way they could like talk to anyone about this from Frogware's perspective, this happens and they just go, well, what do we do? Oh, let's make an announcement on Twitter. fans kind of help resolve this and hope backlash. And honestly, they're just using the public as kind of a barometer and a kind of a, I wouldn't say barometer, but as basically the judge's gavel to be like, hey, you are in the wrong in this, and you should kind of back up on this, because the next thing that you publish, the fans, our fans, will not back, and that may actually severely impact your own business. I hopefully that's what it does, but if they can't regulate it outside of that, what else is there?
Yeah, there's not a lot of things that are preventing publishers from completely screwing over small developers, because Frogware is not a big developer. It's not like they could like do like Bungie did and just pull out and just do whatever they want to do. They're not big enough for that. And it really, when stuff like this happens, like that could be a death sentence and that could be the end of their studio.
So I think, for me, I don't think this is going to be the end of Frogware's life. Even if they don't get the rights back through the courts, I think they'll be fine, because they'll still be able to set it up themselves and be able to sell their own products. It's just they're not going to have the reviews and all the whatever else you have on, like if you were to look it up on the Xbox 360, all that other details is not going to be there the next time you go and look for that game.
Yeah,
But I'm sure it's still, you'll be able to find it and purchase it and play it. It's going to be the same game. I mean, the title cards are going to read the same thing. It's just,
I think probably in future Frogware might do like exclusively to Steam, just because it's a lot harder to publish on PlayStation and Xbox. But right. I still think that this is kind of, it calls to attention like how much do we give publishers and stuff like that, because this is kind of insane that they could basically nearly kill a studio, or they could do what they did to Kojima and completely exclude him from the project, because like Kojima got screwed over hard with Metal Gear Solid 5. They removed his name from the project and overworked him, and then he wasn't even allowed to accept his own award. That's what killed me even more. But yeah, I think we got this topic covered. It's just gaming industry, I honestly personally believe it needs some regulations now. It's to the point where it's gotten out of hand.
Yeah, it's pretty disgusting.
Yeah,
in fairness. But yeah, I don't know, hopefully it all goes well for them. This is weird.
All right.
I don't know if I'm going to start playing the Sherlock Holmes game because of it, but Dre, I did post a picture in the chat.
Oh yeah, I saw.
Okay. Does it make any sense to you?
Sure.
I see the picture too. It's like, I don't know what you're supposed to do.
You have a game there, and you have the publishers on one side and the devs on the other, and one is blocking the rights.
For the developers, yeah. Okay, got it.
Yep. All right.
I love this picture. It's so
I did that with my phone and stylus.
Yeah, he put his stylus to work for that. On the
left-hand side, you'll notice a lot of purple bits there. It's because I drew something, but it didn't come out right, so I tried to erase it, and I couldn't get all of it.
All right. So now we have a special topic, right?
Yes, this is. All right. This is
impromptu time.
Yes, I didn't want anyone getting any knowledge of this before. I think Chris might know because we were talking about it. But the topic here is basically, what's more important, personal safety or personal privacy? And the reason why I think this is actually super important is because when you look at stuff like the Patriot Act, that was what most people would say probably a huge amount of laws that essentially I don't want to say force because it's a law. Technically, the people agreed to it, but there's a bunch of laws in place that people gave up their privacy in a lot of massive things
for protections. Yep.
Yeah, they did it for
personal
protection.
Safety.
But
I mean, that's one of those things where I think what has been said, and enough of it has been said. What I believe it hasn't been a problem recently at all. I mean, because it's under the guise of, if you are not doing terrorist acts, you shouldn't have anything to worry about, which is a really shitty thing to say. But it's also, on the other hand, kind of true, because no court system is going to allow information that is, say, if you are running a huge prostitution ring, but they investigated you for terrorism, no DA is going to allow that information to be used in a courtroom because of the Patriot Act. It says that you cannot use it unless it's terrorism.
Yeah,
So
but
like they could uncover a huge prostitution ring, won't do anything about it. But here's the other thing: what if they did? What if they did find a prostitution ring?
yeah,
Would it be
like
allowed? Like, would you want them to fight? Like, they could be subjecting multiple women to terrible things. They could be even subjecting children to terrible things. Do you want the government to turn a blind eye?
I think it's so hard for people because to have one thing, you have to sacrifice the other, and there are so many people who want both, and they don't realize you can't really have both. You know, like you have to be willing to sacrifice at least one thing. And for the prostitution ring, that's how how the law is now. You know, like they just can't. Look through the government can't just look through whatever they want, and they uncover this, they can't hold it against you because that's not what they're originally searching for. And so I believe what you said earlier, where people, if they know they're not doing anything wrong, then why not sacrifice a little bit of privacy to ensure safety, you know?
well, you can also just I guess to play devil's advocate here, you can also say that like typically when people lose their privacy, it honestly can lead to a lot of people either feeling always watched as like this everlasting presence, and it makes people uncomfortable, and generally it can lead to general unrest because they always have this feeling like, oh, the government's always watching my back, gotta be careful. It's like
It's
this.
like the Big Brother thing, huh? Big
Yeah, it's
Brother
like that
Yeah,
Big Brother effect.
1980,
Yeah.
1984. Yeah, I
and
think.
and
Yeah, go ahead.
I think what most people are more concerned about is like the sort of Orwellian future type thing where like you're always being watched by Big Brother, and even if you're not doing anything wrong initially, maybe they'll dig something up from your past that they can use against you. And I think that's why people are afraid of losing their privacy so much, is they don't want the government to just, oh, I did so, like, I mean, literally imagine something like this, right? And obviously this is a really really dumb example, but it would probably apply to everyone. And that is, say for example, one time somewhere you got caught for like jaywalking, right? And in this Orwellian system, that video would be, cataloging and stuff like that, but they couldn't really use it against you because there was no open investigation against you at the time. The fear is that in the future, maybe you got pulled over for like a DUI, right? And that DUI obviously opens you up to arrest, but then they could take that footage back and just say like, oh, well, you also were caught for jaywalking, you were using illegal drugs, and it turns into like the Orwellian future thing where it's like, oh, everything I could do bad in the past, even though I don't do it now, can still be used against me because laws don't exactly have a, not all laws actually have like a statute of limitation type thing.
Right. Well, some laws do. I think.
That's why I said not all.
Yeah, it's. I think like most felonies don't have a statute of limitations. They're always going to be around you and always hovering you on anything. Not any non-violent misdemeanor is going to not like violate you. I mean, isn't going to haunt you. Um, I think. I mean, another side of the whole personal safety versus your personal rights thing is anything to do with gun rights. If I say I like, it's everyone's privilege to go and shop at a Walmart. But if Walmart says you can't have a firearm on you, are you going to decide, hey, I'm not going to put and go to a Walmart? Or am I, some people feel they're safer with a firearm on them versus those who don't even use them. And this is a whole personal right versus personal safety. And some people kind of, they blur the lines and they kind of go, well, this is my right, this is my thing. Yet they kind of put other people on edge when they go to a store to buy milk. And there's this man that has an a Beretta just strapped to his asshole. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why? Like I'm not kidding you. I went to one in North Conway, a Walmart, and this dude was in fatigues and boots, and it wasn't the digital cami, it was like Reaganomics type deal, and he sketched everyone out, and he was open carrying, no against, but he clearly had everyone's attention, and it was like everyone's personal, like everyone was like, is he just opening up on us? Like it's kind of this thing, and on that end, it's like who's gonna kind of control that? Who's gonna kind of control that behavior? I mean, are we gonna start living in this like Wild West world where everyone's just gonna have a fucking sixer on their side and just be all like, you know what, stranger, I don't like you anymore, and just start opening up? Or are we just gonna kind of be negligent and be like, hey, you may have a gun, you may not have a gun, I don't know, let's not know, and then continue on from there? It's the near future is fine, but I think in the distant it's going to be very strange,
Yeah.
and no one's like, we're not going to be able to predict it, because you know what, they may come out with a pocket laser that's going to be way worse, and it's going to be, we're all going to have lightsabers, but no one's going to have to be able to like not be able to cut them arms off.
Spontaneous lightsaber battles in the middle of the street in New York. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, it's like, oh man, we got this drug, it's called cheese. It's like, what? And it'll make you like blast jizz really, really hard, but the side
Nice.
effects is that your children blue. Like, but it makes sex great. Like the side effects is great.
So it all really comes down to and if we look, we have to look at this more generally, than more specifically, uh, for this to be more decisive, because there's always going to be like an exception to whatever somebody decides on, like your personal safety versus your own privacy, type of thing.
Yeah.
And then we're like, oh, like guns, like you said, that certain situation with the person who carried it, right? Open carry, that causes tension, right?
Yeah.
To him, he feels super safe, probably.
I feel
Oh, he
super
was
safe.
talking
Yeah.
like he was talking to the manager, like, yeah, I'm just here to get some bread, dude. And it's like the manager's like, yeah, but why? Like, why you just like,
Why you gotta?
you're
why
ready,
you gotta-
like you're ready for the rice fields, like why?
Yeah, I guess it's just how it's really hard. These situations are just so hard to go up against, because it always ends up being, what do you want more? And and it's hard. It's basically picking the better of two evils, almost.
The lesser evil, yeah.
The
Yeah.
lesser, like the lesser evil one, and it's all about perspective. So like everybody who wasn't that guy was like, oh hell no, but the guy
Yeah.
was
Right.
like, he's all chilling. So but in speaking in generality, I think people, I know more the conservative side wants to feel more private and more freedom for themselves, and the liberal side is going to be more like, oh, I just rather feel safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's
th-
who else was there? Was that kid that was that he made the news. He was walking around. He might even made Tosh.0, I think. He was literally just walking around with a full-on like bulletproof vest on, or maybe just a tack vest with an AR, but or not even an AR. I think he had like he had a bolt action 22 or something like that, like something not even like realistically defensible, like as like it's not a weapon. I'd be like, you know what, I'm gonna grab this. Like I'd have better chances with a fucking spoon at that point. Like it's one of those things, right? And
Hmm.
and then taking the next guy's weapon, like if I'm gonna get invaded by terrorists. But he was patrolling his streets, and they were like, why are you doing this? He's like, I don't know, because I can, and because I want to. Like it's like, all
And
right,
to him,
well,
he feels safer.
yeah,
right.
he may feel like safer, but at the end of the time, at the other end of the spectrum, like, do people have at least somewhat of a right to feel safe as well? Like, not just including him.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if we view it that way, it's okay. Because remember what you said earlier about vapes?
Yeah.
As long as he's not harming anyone else, why is he not allowed to do that?
Yeah.
I know it creates this setting of fear, and like it could put people in danger. But if he's true to his words, why can't he do that? Why can't
I
he so
I
unquote patrol his own neighborhood and keep it safe? You know?
I think it's. I believe it's 100% the fact that people don't know their neighbors anymore. It's the fact that no one knows who the road to them, and they don't know how they act, who they are, how they treat themselves, or how they treat others, and what their intentions are. I know everyone I grew up. I mean, duh. I grew up on a fucking dirt road, and there was probably like 14 people on it. But I know everyone I grew on, like that was there. I know I could go to any one of their houses, and I could grab milk and sugar without even like knocking on the door. I can just walk and be like, "Hey, I need milk and sugar."
That's a level of trust I wish I had, man.
It's
I
just
mean,
'cause,
that's just like, well, I wouldn't not knock, but like, I wouldn't get shot for it, right? Whereas
yeah.
other people are like, "Yo, who's that man? Who's that kid over there? I'm gonna blast
And
his
why is he
ass."
taking my milk?
Yeah,
I
why is
think
he raiding my fucking kitchen right now?
it's
Though my
because
friend did have his parents be like, "Yo, don't have Krista over anymore because he keeps taking her."
yeah, I guess it's just because like nowadays it's so hard to trust people because you know terrorism and stuff like that, and people um
Well, it's not even
just want
terrorism. It's just
is
like, yo, this man came in and like fucked up my kitchen for
it
no
doesn't have to
reason.
be like foreign
Like
terrorism. It
he
could be
just
just
raided my kitchen, like my cabinets for fucking meds.
yeah.
Like
It's
all he
just
got away with is the leave, but why? Like makes no sense. Like there's just weird ass people out
I think it's the culture that American creates. Um, that we aren't as trusting. Like, let's say like in America you greet like with a handshake, right?
there. Right.
In some parts of Europe, they greet by kissing each other on the cheek, and that's totally normal. But to American culture, that's weird. You know, I think
Yeah.
it's
Right.
just that our culture taught us differently, and that's why in our culture, school shooting is really prevalent. Um, but then reality, I think
But
they kind of
we have a gun free zone that so it won't happen.
that's not realistic, and uh, I think guns. I don't want to go too much into guns because guns will have its own topic and whatnot because like it's just a big topic in general.
For real.
But I think it's just because what I want to say about the thing is just American culture. It teaches us to rather be safe than sorry, type of
Yeah.
thing. You know?
Like you never know what the neighbor's packing, so you gotta pack something hotter. Like
Yeah,
that's the
American. I
Well,
think
I mean,
idea.
but I mean, the other thing is that I went to a school. There were 400 kids, and I could like again, it's very obvious and no duh type situation, but I could tell you the kids that were they had a shotgun in their truck. And it wasn't because they were like, yo, I'm gonna be like a mass murderer someday. It's because they were like, yo, I live on a farm and when I go home the fucking weasel going after my chickens, I need to be able to like handle that shit on the spot.
yeah, and I think
Or I just like to kill animals outside of hunting. Like you're kind of crazy and creepy and weird that way, but I never felt my personal safety was victimized because of that, right?
Well,
yeah, I
but
think
I
they just got
feel
worse.
yeah, I feel like it is worse, but at the same time, it's like, well, I had a situation that happened with my friend where I actually found her a place to stay and everything. She was like homeless at the time. I found her a place to stay and all that, right? And she had, I wouldn't call him a friend because he was completely he ruined it for her because I found her a place to stay. She was like golden and she would have been basically taken care of until she goes in the army. And we had a she had a friend that literally broke into my neighbor's place because that's who she was staying with. Broke into my neighbor's place and literally was doing meth in the bathroom. And
All right.
and at that point it's like I would want a gun in that situation because I don't know this guy's a literal meth dealer in my bathroom. Like I have no clue what this man's got.
Yeah.
And I think the two top quotes to take away from here to remember why American culture it is as it is the first one I said earlier is rather be safe than sorry, and the second one was always assume the worst.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I and
yeah,
I think
it's
that's
that's well, I mean, I got that from Boy Scouts where it's prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
Yeah.
but at the same time that kind of leads to people always in this like general like always cautious mindset. Even if it's like a neighbor you known for a year, you never know if they're like a sociopath and they've just been lying the entire time.
Yeah.
But at the
Like,
same time,
hey,
it's like you have to
I used to
learn
wear
to
people's
trust you.
faces, but you wouldn't know that because you didn't like. I didn't have you over for parcheesi and fondue. Like,
Yeah. But yeah, I think that covers it pretty well. Honestly, this is kind of one of those topics where like you can delve really into like the whole Orwellian future type thing, and that in itself has a long topic to go over. But I don't know. I think we pretty much got it. Anyway,
Yeah, I feel pretty good about this podcast.
yeah, that was pretty good. We actually got through. Actually, I might reduce it by one item just because I need some extra time just in case like we hold on an item for too long because we sat on what was it vapes for like 15 minutes and
Trump
we
and vapes were the two big ones because they are definitely more of the bigger topics, I believe. I think maybe something like the false arrest rewards, maybe not as big as everything else.
well, we never went over the false arrest reports. Well,
we did.
yes and no. That's a different topic on its own. The guy that planted evidence on some people.
Well,
No, the
that
But
false
was something
arrest
different.
is the commissioner.
yeah, the
We were talking about
commissioner.
the city commissioner
Yeah.
one, not what you were talking about because I remember that you talked about that.
Yeah. Oh, you can just Google that, and that's just disgusting.
Yeah,
That's
but
where it's like, even for me, where I'm like, trust the system. It's like, oh my god,
yeah,
this
and
system completely failed these people.
yeah, don't, everyone rebel against the system. It ain't working for us. Make a new system. Just start anarchy and replace our government with communism. That's all I'm saying.
Yikes. No, thank you.
Yeah, all right, thanks, China.
I think there's so many big topics that we can talk about. I think, but some of these topics would require one podcast for themselves.
Yeah,
That would be including like gun control, just guns in generals. That's why I didn't want to dive in too much into it because it would be like a big discussion about that anyways. Communism, communism, more like the future of our of the 2020 election and what's gonna happen, type of
yeah.
thing, and just Trump and just so many things to talk about.
Ooh, that
And
actually gave me an
it,
idea.
yeah, it's just so hard to like try to stay on track without moving on to without trying to go to a different topic, you know.
I think probably in future I'm gonna limit it down to just like 3 topics and like the general debate thing, just so we have enough time and can pretty much hit that 1 hour because we are way over 1 hour. We hit like an hour and 30.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we were
Yeah.
on 130.
Yeah, we were. I mean, it's a good discussion. It definitely is. I wish we would get a lot of viewers
What did we
and
do?
people.
4 topics.
Yeah,
Uh,
4 topics plus a special topic plus.
Yeah.
Oh no, we did 5 topics plus a special topic.
yeah,
Right.
I would actually remove 2 just so we have a pretty good lengthy discussion in one if we need to.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think if we keep the podcast shorter, and we potentially get more viewers. And what I would like to see from these viewers is just what they would say. Maybe they could add on to it because I'll read what the comments be saying. Like, I want to see if they add on or if they disagree and why and stuff like that. Because
I do
everyone
have
has so many different points of views and like their experience is so different. And
Right. Like me growing up in Maine is much different than me living in Massachusetts now versus you growing up in Kansas. and-
California, I live in California. It's so liberal.
Oh
over here.
my
It's
god.
Very,
Oh,
very
so it's like
it is super liberal in
it's
California.
very, very different.
what part of
So,
California now? Are you
San
like-
Diego, so Southern California.
Oh,
The most,
okay.
it's super liberal. But
Right.
I'm very
Well, that's like what's funny is like Maine has these like 2 different parts of it that make no sense, and it's you have coastal region which is very liberal and very uptight, and then you go inland and everyone loses teeth and brain cells and is very red. And it makes no sense because like everything on the coast is derived from being hardworking. You know you're a fisherman, you're a lobster guy, and then it's like, but I also own this house on the pier, and it's the best time to go apple picking right now because they make the best cider and the cinnamon sprinkled donuts. Oh my goodness. Talking about you
And
go home.
see, and that is
leave.
definitely what makes it kind of interesting when you go into these topics is like the backgrounds where people come from makes a big difference. Like for me, I grew up quite a bit in Florida, Cape Coral, which is heavily Christian, conservative, and Republican, 100%.
I think also what people should realize, what matters most, is not something that you can't control, but what you can control, sort of.
Yeah,
Like, what I mean is, like, my point of view should not matter because I'm necessarily Asian, but because that my culture that I learned it from, that is what is affecting my point of view. Like, I don't think it should matter. It's so hard to do that, so because a lot of people face racism and so much experience because of stuff they can't control, which is so unfair.
Jesus,
Like
my grandfather hated both of you people. He hated Asians and black people. Mostly
Like-
Japanese on the Asian side, and mostly
okay.
which is it's just so bad, right? Like, why do people? I hate how people hate other people for something they can't control. Brian can't control he's black. You know?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is just the exact reason why racism exists in certain parts and why it exists or how it exists is my grandfather was playing. I think he was 14 or 12. He was playing baseball with a bunch of black kids and he was pitching and he beamed one of the kids, not on purpose, but that's what he says. But he hit one of the kids and he was like, well, shit, they're all going to want to kick my ass right now. So he started running away. So he ran to his house, but they chased him. And on his porch was his father. And that moment he realized he couldn't be running home away from a bunch of black kids. He had to turn and fight. And so he was like, then on, it was, I don't like black people. And
Yeah.
that's when, and then he also went to World War II and fought in the Pacific. And then, well, there wasn't a lot of nice Asian people then. So he didn't come across a lot of nice Japanese people. So
Oh, there's so many good topics we can talk about. Like,
Yeah. Well,
how
that's
does
the
thing.
racism
Stuff.
exist? Oh, there's so many things to talk about.
Yeah,
I
but
think this
act-
podcast would be good in the future. I just
yeah.
hope we get a lot of more viewers.
We did get like one comment coming in, but that was like it wasn't. It was really just it didn't really add to anything. So I was like, oh,
well,
okay, whatever.
yeah, I see it right now. I have your.
I'm
I
using
don't know what the
Restream
delay
Chat.
is.
I'm using Restream Chat, so I can see all the comments from all platforms. So
what was the one? What was the one comment?
it was just but medical experts told me vaping is
Yeah.
bad. It didn't really add anything, so I didn't really mention it.
Vaping, to me, yeah, it's just whatever. It's just all whatever right now.
Now,
actually,
are you gonna have this as a digital format outside of?
Yeah, it will be
Video?
uploaded to YouTube. I have it recording in like what
We- you
CQP
should
14. So.
Any pure audio format or no?
Oh, pure audio format? I can do that. That's really easy to do.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, are you gonna? Where would you put that? If you were to-
iTunes,
well,
I don't think I can put it
I-
on iTunes.
Spotify, bro. You got it.
Yeah, Spotify might be.
Dude, can I even make a thing on
you know what?
Spotify?
I like this.
Oh yeah,
know
you
this-
can. You have to be able to.
What we can do is also in the future we'll learn to make this a lot faster, maybe shorter, better clips, like little clips of like our quotes and stuff like that. Because right now this is just basically like a test.
Yeah, it is 100%. But I'll try and make a place that people can go to get like just an audio only version of it.
Right.
Just because I know there's gonna be a lot of people who are kind of like me, where I like listening to like podcasts and stuff in the background, just because it's like you don't really need to look at the stuff.
And you should put a disclaimer where this is a lot of opinions with facts, and so people shouldn't really like take this for
Opinions
to
with
be all.
facts.
I think
It's like no, because we're expressing our opinions, but also giving you facts at the same time. You know, we're supporting our opinions with facts.
well,
is
but
what
that's
I'm
like any podcast. I don't think you really need to telegraph that. It's just that's what
Well, just in
podcasts and
case.
talk shows are.
saying. Somebody finds everything we say offensive, reports it all.
We don't like Trevor Noah.
I say
Yeah,
I like
we all
Donald
hate-
Trump.
Anti.
we all hate. Alright, so
I hate communism. I get reported. Oh shit.
Dude, communism is my like. Look, communism is an aesthetic, okay?
Oh shit. Did I?
Yeah, it is. I swear it is.
I think we should have special podcasts where we just talk about one topic because I feel like there's so many topics that can go on for hours.
We can alternate. Like, for example, I plan to do like a podcast every 2 weeks, just because I feel like every 1 week there's not gonna be enough. There's not gonna be really enough to cover, and we'll burn through it too
there's
much.
plenty of topics.
No, there's
I know.
there are too many topics.
But what
to
I'm saying
discuss.
is, I want to include some news topics as well, so get things that are relevant. If you go
What
go
I-
every week, then
I think
grabbing things relevant can be hard.
it's not the topics necessarily, but the point of we need a lot more point of views because right now, like the three of us are very almost not exactly same point of view, but we're kind of similar. I want more other different points of view. I want to see how other people view it. Like I want to see someone who's like the
hey,
complete
look,
opposite
we
of me.
had
You know?
Trevor. That would have been interesting, but I'll try and find some more liberals.
Just cover Trevor Noah.
Yeah.
But I mean, like for me, right? Like I am the most left on everyone here, but we're all libertarians though, so that probably, at least when we're talking about topics like this, it's definitely not really a split between us.
Yeah, it's more like so more viewers equals better because more different points of views. You know,
Yeah.
I just want to see how other people view it because if we all view it the same, we're all gonna have like the same sources and the same ways we see it or the same type of news provided to us. And I want to see how other people see it, like how their experiences affect them on these types of topics. You know.
Yeah, I'll see about grabbing some different people. Maybe I can go around on Discord servers and just see who I can grab. But I mean, we could bring Kaylee into this. Oh, that'd be interesting.
That would be
Who was this?
interesting.
Wait, was Kaylee? All right, Kaylee was the one that was. This is a different subject, and I don't want to get into.
Oh, that was yeah.
I don't know what that was about.
I'm not trying to get any more topics because I know we're trying to wrap it up here.
Actually, it's fine. We can just simply talk it out. My thing is like with the podcast, I want the main part of it, which is the topics and debate, to be covered in the hour. The last hour can honestly just be us talking and BSing at the end. It don't very much matter.
I'm pretty much done here.
Yeah, maybe just pull like 2 top articles, one and then just throw another gaming one in there, and then just riff from there.
Yeah, but I'm definitely gonna that racism thing was actually pretty interesting. So I'm gonna add that as our last thing to talk about for the day, because that has a lot of things.
What a racism thing?
Yeah, when we were talking about
how,
racism and why it exists. And what can be done about it.
Like how it was basically taught to and my father as well. And my father was really good about not sharing it.
But
yeah, racism is taught. Yeah, it's just taught.
I think the next thing we could cover is the DNC, like just the Democratic candidates as a whole.
Oh yeah, I think each person can have its own podcast.
I mean, we can do one podcast. It's just talking about the Democratic candidates.
Right.
I mean, because here's what I'll do. We'll do a section just talking about the Democratic candidates, and then I'll have one article.
Just Democrats.
All right, look here. Do you know the Republican candidates? There's just so many.
Ron Paul. I'm joking.
Kamala Harris.
She's not. No, she's Democratic.
Yeah, she is Democratic. Yeah, that's what he was referring to.
No, I mean, well, there's no Republican candidates, to be honest, because it's just gonna be Trump.
Yeah, just Trump.
But
Trump
I just
for the
want to
win,
get
dude.
I just want to get the big candidates out the way, like your Andrew Yangs, Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, those sort of things.
You also got the socialists, Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, Bernie, those type of people. Cory Booker.
Yeah.
He shouldn't even count as a Democrat. He should just be a fucking socialist.
I think he is just a socialist, isn't he?
He is just a socialist, but he falls under that.
Oh, he falls under the Democrat? Oh, I thought he's just a socialist.
I think he's like a bandwagon. Like he's just like, you know what? This is good.
Because they get a lot of support. Because they know. But the thing is, like, for Bernie Sanders, like the one thing I can get from him is like every time I hear his name, all I can think of is just communism. I don't know why. That's all I think of.
You're not wrong. It's fine. That's
Why
great,
can't
though.
I just What the fuck is up with Mixer?
But yeah,
Why
I
can't
have an idea though of what we can do. So we can just next one we can just talk about the Democratic candidates and not covering the racism thing, but just to keep it in line, we could talk about if we don't use the whole hour spending on the candidates. We can actually talk about Andrew Yang's freedom dividend because that one would be a big major shakeup in America, and if it actually went through, would have a lot of implications.
I have not done any research on him.
You got 2
whatsoever.
weeks.
All right, cool.
He's a weird guy.
Dude, Andrew Yang, he's like, I don't know, to me when I see Andrew Yang, he's basically just like, he's the Asian dad. Like he's
the business guy I wanted to have in office when yeah, Trump should be good. He's a big business guy, but when I realized that and then I found out that Trump's not really a big business guy as much as he's just a fucking bully with fucking not with no agenda, which is kind of scary. Yeah, I'm interested in Andrew Yang. I should.
But you
doing
gotta
well.
admit, for Trump not having any real political experience, he's done pretty well.
yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
I mean, he's not like what who's elected after Roosevelt, because I think he was the one that was like had no clue what he was doing. He like
Truman,
just everyday man.
or Eisenhower. Was it?
It was. I think it was.
No, it was
Truman.
Truman. I think it was Eisenhower. No, I think Eisenhower's was a.
Eisenhower
he had
was
no
a military
Eisenhower-
leader.
Eisenhower was a general. He was a general, and then he got elected in. He had no political experience either.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. And then he was like, I think the military industrial complex is gonna get us one day. And everyone's like, please. And then it's like, all right, cool. And then it's like, oh, now we're doing this. I'm trying to find. I can't send you my fucking little spark points. I don't know why, but I.
All right,
looking
I'm
it
gonna head
out.
out now.
Yeah,
I
I
Yeah.
think
Talk. Maybe next
we can
time.
just end it right now, right? End it
Yeah, we
together.
We can end the podcast. It's been an hour 30. So, all right, everyone at home, you have a beautiful day, and just remember that if you follow me or subscribe to me or whatever on whatever platform you're on, because there's like 3 different terms for it, you are 10% cooler. So, and where else are you gonna get such in-depth political analysis as this? So, anything you guys want to add to that?
But if you don't want to be that much cooler, you can still follow him and then follow me on Twitter at Cthulhuminati, and it'll be 10% less cool, and it would just balance it out. Like everything should be. Not to say I'm Thanos, but
It's a
snap my
yin yang,
fingers.
you know. It's a
Just
yin yang.
Me, just be
Andrew
open.
Yang Yang.
I think for me, my ending words would be just be open, and be willing to see new perspectives.
Oh, you actually like enlighten the chat. We just over here plugging ourselves. Okay, well, you don't have to one up us, dude.
Fuck you, Mr.
I really don't
Nice
have
Guy.
a plug. I just want people to be understanding. So that's how we evolve. That's how we evolve as a society.
Yeah.
You may evolve, but I'm gonna fucking regress, bro.
Oh.
I'm regressing to
dragging
Twitter.
these knuckles.
All right,
All right. Have a
Everyone-
good day, guys.
everyone, have a nice day, and the podcast will be back in about 2 weeks, same time.
Deuces.
Neato.
See ya.